A very slight shift to your focus, a very slight change to your intention can assist you in opening up your intuitive doors, getting that channel open. It can also assist you in closing it. I'll tell you about both of those in today's session. This is going to be a great one. Also, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to intuition, this is going to help you open it up. If you've been using your intuition for a long time, it's going to help you shut it off in those times that you want to shut it off. Either way, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification button. It really does help the channel, and it's going to help you as well when we put out new videos. I have two fabulous examples for you today on what happens when you shift your intent just slightly and how we can get stuck in our intuitive growth. We can grow a little bit, and then all of a sudden we find we're stuck and we can't seem to get further with it. Or we want to learn how to, get into it on demand versus having it happen randomly. And lastly, also, we're going to talk about what happens if you're already open and you're struggling with shutting it down. Is there something you can do with that as well? All three of those. This is going to be a great one because I'm going to give you two examples through this session, one of which is an example of opening up that intuitive channel, and one of which is an example, a personal example of mine, on how to shut that intuitive channel. So let's do this. When it comes to intuition, intuition is buffered by intent. Do you remember being little and going bowling and you had those blow up things in the gutter, those blow up balloons that would stretch the length of the gutter so that your ball wouldn't go into the gutter? Yeah, that's intent when it comes to intuition. You can't let your intent get in the way of the ball going down the alley, but you really do have to have some intent in order to point in the direction that you want to go with your intuition. Nothing wrong with sitting there, just throwing the bowling ball across the entire room and let's see, what lane it ends on. That's fine. You can do that. But most of the time, we do want to know about something. So we do want to stay in that lane. And intent is the bumper rails. It's the rails to make sure that that ball does not go into the gutter. So one of the things that we really struggle with is that our intent can be so focused on sometimes what we want or what we don't want so sharply that we can't even throw the ball down the lane. You know what I mean? We can't even open it up. And this happens quite frequently. Let me jump into the first example and you'll kind of see what I mean. This is definitely one of those where the easiest way to explain it is by example. I was working with one of my students and she's absolutely amazing. Very powerful healing abilities for others, very skilled at tapping in for others, very skilled at relaying messages for others, still struggling a little bit with her own receiving of messages for herself, still struggling a little bit with being able to sit down and tap into what's going on intuitively for herself. And she'd been struggling with this for a while. She tried a bunch of different things because that's what you got to do. You got to try a bunch of different things. So she did. Then she found that she stepped into a small period in her life that was very stressful. Environmental stuff going on, house stuff going on, kids stuff going on, medical stuff going on. And it got to the point where she said in her human life, that's it, I need a break. And so she took care of her responsibilities and then she carved out a couple of days in a row to go camping. And she said, that's it, I'm out, see ya, bye. Headed out to the woods, off grid. I think she talked about like cooking soup in a can. Like really off grid, super peaceful. And she described this experience as being, we were just casually talking about it. She was like, it was wonderful. I was really relaxed and I could feel myself sink into this zone of just peace. So then she comes back from the camping trip and the very next day, she feels herself sink in not only to that zone of peace, but then be able to tap in for intuition and connecting with her guides for herself. She was like, I just did. I just flew right, like it just like landed right into it. This was where we opened up the discussion, and this is the topic for this session of sometimes we have to shift our intention, focus on what we really think we want, and we have to shift it a little off to the side, a little onto the bumpers, right? So we can allow ourselves to easily flow into what we actually want. When it comes to intuition, intention, et cetera, it really is, we have to guide it instead of demand it. We can't stand at that front door and pound on it going, let me in, let me in, let me in. We have to sit off to the side sometimes and relax and get ourselves into the right place to open that door. And this is what she learned. Upon camping, upon, hanging, chilling out, settling down into that really peaceful state, she was able to easily then access her intuitive channel for herself. This was wonderful. I said, this is where we shift our intent. All right. This is where you don't focus so much on let me in, let me in, let me in to your intuition. Now you focus on how do you incorporate into your daily life that level of peace. So by focusing on something that doesn't seem directly connected to intuition, we actually access more intuition. This is, you maybe have heard me talk about decluttering. That's a big topic for me because it really is the core to it. Our intuition, we come here, it's wide open. Wide open. We hit those, preteen years, teen years, 20s, and we just layer on clutter, emotional, mental, environmental, relationship clutter. We layer on the clutter. And then we get older and we go, I want to access my intuition. And your intuition says, okay, there's a lot of clutter in front of the door. And this is what my student did, is she decluttered. She went camping. She relaxed. She sunk down into that state of peace. And then that easily and automatically opened her intuitive channel for information for herself. So the goal for her, the end result, is don't sit in front of that intuitive door, knocking on it, going, come on, open up. I'm focused on how do I get you open? How do I open you? And instead, slightly shift her focus over to how do I live my life in such a way that I can frequently get into that state of peace. Now, little side note here. I know that we're all hectic. I know we're all in relationships. I know that we're not 5 years old anymore and life is a little bit easy. I understand that. And this isn't about shifting your entire life all at once. Did she completely fix the environmental stuff going on, the medical stuff going on, and all that on one camping trip? No, it's not that she did that. She figured out how to spend some of her time to bring in that state for her to be in. So this is not about fixing our entire lives. This is about learning how to start to balance, the act of balancing, the act of settling into that space where we can connect to our spiritual being. That's what this is about. So this is my first example. I'm going to give you a second example. This is my first example of how sometimes when we focus our intent directly at our intuition, I want to open, 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 open. Sometimes it can be effective to take a step back, go off to the side, get those bumpers on the lane, ready for ourselves and set up our intention off to the side. How can I nurture myself in my environment in order to help myself naturally and with more ease get into an intuitive state when I want to? Not I want to, but how can I adjust my life in such a way that it will help me easily step in to my intuition in the moments that I need to? This is really important. This is really important because if I know anybody, I know myself. And I am the type, I will run nonstop all day long and then sit down and go, I want to tap in. And it takes a minute. And it takes a minute because I've cluttered my mind. Clutter. So think in terms of decluttering. Think in terms of sometimes aiming for I want. The intention of I want my intuition to open up isn't necessarily going to be what opens your intuition. shifting that intention, slight adjustment off to, I want to set my intent to start making my life more accessible and complementary to being intuitive. That's going to help you out a bunch. All right, let's go to the second example. Now, when I opened up, I was an adult. I was 32 years old. There's a whole story to that. And I really had a big learning curve. I didn't understand a lot of it. And for the first number of years, actually, so I opened up right around 2005, and it was probably, this is an event that I'm going to tell you an example was from 2011. So now, mind you, I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have somebody like showing up to say, hey, think about this, try that. That's why I'm here with you, because that's what I want for you, because I didn't have it. So it took me a little while longer to learn things. So 6 years had gone by. I was a professional intuitive. I was doing readings. I was booked out. I was loving the job. It was wonderful. But I was starting to struggle. I really struggled with being able to shut it down. I trained and I opened it up and I honed it and I set my intentions and so I could access it. And I did all of that, all the training that my spirit guide gave me in the beginning, all of the training that eventually ended up becoming the Sage Method course. I did all that. And it skyrocketed me very quickly into becoming a professional intuitive. Now, most people that I work with and teach don't go out into the world to become professional intuitives. The Sage Method is really geared toward you using your intuition in your life. And here I am, however, I personally did step into becoming a professional intuitive, and I do readings, and I love them. I do clearings, and I was struggling shutting it off. Couldn't shut it off. I was trying to find ways to do this. I was so focused on the frustration of not being able to shut it off that I didn't shut it off. I was like, I wish I could, I'm going to practice ignore. And that's I kind of still have that technique of like, I'm going to practice ignoring it. That's going to be my practice. I'm ignoring it. It's off there. It's not in my line of sight. I'm going to focus on the agreed upon reality. I'm going to let the rest of it fade away. That was sort of my consistent flow in order to disconnect from it. Now, to put this in perspective, as a professional intuitive, I'm working anywhere between 10, 20 hours a week doing readings in an office setting. I'm doing group readings. I'm teaching. I was raising 2 kids. I mean, I had a huge full plate, and I was constantly internally saying to myself, really in a kind of a feeling of a complaint. I was saying to myself, I just want to shut it off. I just want one day, right? Where I don't see anything. I might not have any clients until tomorrow, but their loved ones would still pop in the day before. So I was really struggling with that boundary setting, and I was so focused on what I want that it wasn't working. And I didn't know this until this situation happened. So let's go to 2011. I went on a road trip with my family, and we went on a 4-month RV road trip across the country. It was great. I had book signings to do for Cracking Open the book. And I was going down to different bookstores to do book signings across the country. And we're like, hey, let's RV. And those two things coincided at the same time. We went down to Florida, and we went to St. John's, I believe it's called, and it's on an island. And there was a campground on that island. Sadly, no longer there. A hurricane came through a couple of years ago, but back in 2011, there was this beautiful campground. And I was really excited. I'm like, let's go. And we get to this point where we're going to go over kind of a bridge. Not completely a bridge, but kind of a bridge. And when we got over the bridge, something shifted with me, and I didn't expect it. And I was so excited to go to this island. I was so excited to be camper. I was so excited to just relax. I was like, oh, this island, this is it. This is going to be my ultimate relaxation. And when we got onto, there's kind of an island, but when we got onto it, it all disappeared. Like my intuition just shut. It just shut. It just closed. And what I normally could see just in my day-to-day living now for the last 6 years, I couldn't see. And I got to tell you, I didn't expect it. It was a little bit of a panic, just a little panic, not a huge panic, but there was that moment. It was so drastic that I remember thinking to myself, I'm not seeing both realms anymore. This realm, the human realm, and the spirit realm at the same time. I'm not seeing both. I'm not experiencing and feeling both. And I remember thinking, oh no, was this it? Was it 6 years? And now it's done? Maybe that could be. I don't know. I don't know how this all works. And finally, my guide, Peter, my main guide, came through. It was Peter or Big Dog. I forget which one it was, but they came through and they said, here's the deal. You wanted a break. Take the break. We're giving you a break on this island. I said, oh, okay. And I enjoyed every minute of it. We were only there for a couple of days, but I was meeting people and I wasn't really picking up any energy anywhere. And I was just being like a giant kid, a giant human kid that had fun for a number of days. And it was wonderful. And then later I said to my guide, what happened? Do I need to move to that island? Because I could live on the island and then come off of the island to do readings, then go back to the island, right? Still adjusting to intuitive life as a professional intuitive. And he said, no, we wanted you to be in a space where you just completely had fun, where you were whimsical, where you were free. And I was like, spot on. I got it. And he said, if you want to be in your human body, be in your human body. If you want to be in your intuitive body, be in your intuitive body. It's not about shutting it off. It's about moving your focus. You're either focused here or you're focused there. I was so grateful for this lesson. So grateful. And by the way, I met some of the coolest people. And it was really great to meet them and like not know anything. I would be like, hey, how many kids you got? You know, it was great. Like things like that would come up where normally something like that might, not always, but might randomly pop in. So it was great. And I learned a lot. I learned that when I sat there and said, I want to turn it off, I want to turn it off, I want to turn it off, you know what I was really doing? I was focusing on the intuition. I'm like looking straight at intuition going, I want to figure out how to temporarily turn you off and did not access you. And intuition was probably looking back at me going, how's that working for you? Because you're focused on me. You just keep focusing on me. How's that working for you? And my guides, in a very unusual and kind of cool way, said, look what happens when you shift your intention slightly, when you shift your focus slightly into your human world. Notice how all your focus goes over there. That worked. And it's continued to work for me today. When I'm human, I'm human. When I'm intuitive, I'm intuitive. And it's beautiful because I have full access to both. It's not like one's actually, quote, shut down. So I was looking at intuition going, I want you to temporarily shut down so I can stop or be off the clock or something like that. And I realized I just was focusing on it. So I had to shift my focus. This is a technique that works really well. If you find that you've been focusing on something intuitively, either how to access it, how to shut it off, how to get names, how to get something else, start to think in terms of how can you set your intent up to be complementary to your goal that you're trying to achieve intuitively. Because by focusing on the problem will remain. By focusing on what's not happening, by focusing on not being able to access your intuition, you're going to continue to not be able to access your intuition. By me focusing on not being able to shut it off, I was not able to shut it off. Somebody's like, I'm not able to access it, then you're not going to be able to access it. So what can you bring in that's complementary to your life? For me, it was focusing on completely letting myself fall into my human life and having fun. For my student, it was completely falling into a state of peace and not having to solve every single problem all the time. These life lessons not only benefit us huge, right? But they're going to help you navigate your intuition in the way that you want to navigate it. I don't want to shut it off. I want to live with it. And I do. I want to live with it in the best way. And I do. I live intuitively. I'd say 50% of my day is intuition, and it's based on living my best life and manifesting and having fun. But then the other 50% is really enjoying the time I have here as a human. You know, I came into this world, I've got a body, and I love it. So where's your focus? Where's your intent? Because when my focus is here, I'm intuitive. When my focus is here, I'm human. For my student, when her focus is in the human, she's human. And then she realized, oh, I have to relax in and let go of the human focus to access in to the intuitive focus. Just think about it for a little bit. What part of your life can you calm or set aside or bring more of in order to be in the state of balance that you're actually looking for? Sometimes it's not about the goal and the end result of the balance that you want intuitively. Sometimes it's about bringing in what will help you to achieve that state of balance. Give it a shot. Set up those bowling bumpers. You'll play a really good game of bowling. I guarantee it. There is so much more to this path, little tidbits and little tips that are going to help you to be able to navigate your natural intuition. Check out this video next. I think it's going to be a perfect fit for you.